The following program has been made possible through an underwriting grant from Benny Rizzuto's wallet. Hey, come back here with that.
Hello, my name's Mags.
That's the way it's done.
You know the Dakar Rally, it's the car race in the Sahara Desert. And this is my artist's impression of it.
And here I am, your host on Benny Rizzuti. Welcome to Benny TV. What a coincidence. I'm on a show that's named after me. Well, happy May 1st, everybody. Welcome to the premiere of Benny TV. And this is a unique show. This is a show about everything. So there are shows about nothing. This is a show about everything. And I'm going to have videos on here. We're going to have calling guests. We're going to do movie reviews, book reviews, you name it. We're going to keep print alive. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun ride. I wanted to do a show. I've done many shows, and I love this studio, Strong Island Radio and Television. So I wanted to do something unique. So I went on Facebook because I don't know how to use any of those other Snapchat or any of that. So I went on Facebook. And I posted on certain pages that I wanted unique videos. I wanted people, they didn't necessarily have to be funny, but they had to be interesting and unique. And I got some great people who sent me videos from all over the world. I have a student show that was done in Dublin, Ireland. And I met a few people there that I've spoken to. I have people who have sent me videos from South Africa, from even as far as Columbia, South Carolina. So without further ado, we're going to show a couple of videos from a student show from Dublin, Ireland called Stand Up Tonight. It was a great show with the first person I met who helped me out with this show is Margaret McHugh, also known as Mags McHugh. So here we go. Let's start with video one of Mags McHugh, and then we'll be back with some movie reviews, and a very special friend of mine will join me. Okay, video one, roll 'em.
Welcome to Stand Up Tonight, the brand new stand-up comedy show showcasing new and emerging Irish talent. I'm Alan Young, and we're coming to you from the National Film School in IAD Dunleary, along with the fabulous studio audience and our wonderful house band, the Fanny Bashers, ladies and gentlemen. We have a spectacular lineup of hilarious Irish talent coming your way, all of which have a serious dose of them funny bones. Tonight, we bring the funny to you.
Hello, my name's Mags. I'm a psychic medium. I was a small medium. I'm a medium, and now I'm more of a large medium. Have a little think about who you might like to hear from. It will make no difference whatsoever. But do have a little think. Okay, so as is tradition, is there anybody there? That's fine. So I'm looking for a man, alcohol dependent, who's racist, and good at domestic violence. Any takers? Actually, that's not a reading. That's just me looking for a new husband. I do like to make the same mistakes repeatedly and look for a different outcome. So that's fine. That's okay. So yeah, okay. So no takers there. That's fine. So actually, I'm not a psychic, you know, truthfully, but I am a racist. So I don't like the whites. There's a lot of them. The ones that particularly annoy me are the ones it's all me, very self-centered, you know, toddlers. You see a lot of them, you know, around, and yeah, very self-centered. So how am I going to go from self-centered toddlers to Donald Trump? Tricky, I know. Take that leap with me. So when I think of him, I think of the 3 O's. I think, oh my goodness, how did this happen? I think he's original. This is my favourite one. He's orange. And orange is the new black, so that does make him the 2nd black American president. So well done, America. I know. So, and it's good because he's so straightforward and honest and transparent, and that's important. So I am going to come clean with you now and tell you that I don't actually need this, but I do like a little bit of comfort. I know. So, the chair. I like a chair with a back, obviously. It's not actually my chair, it's my dad's. I left him at Super Value. He's resourceful. He's 90, he'll find his own way home, it'll be fine. So, really good. I mean, I have made an effort. If you are disgusted, and some of you may be, I have carried it up. I've carried it up a flight of stairs, 2 buses, yeah. And I like to use it for shoplifting. Yeah, it's perfect for shoplifting. I'm not saying everybody in a wheelchair does that, but I do. So that's what I do. So not all disabilities are as obvious. So have we got anyone in with depression? Keep it light, Mags. Let's keep it light. So, anyone in with depression? Just me. Now, I can sleep for 18 hours solid. I mean, it's a skill. I've worked on it. It's taken me years to get to that level. So Christmas is a wonderful time if you have depression. It is fabulous, obviously. People there know. So this year I was expecting an engagement ring from Brendan. That's Brendan. But for the purposes of confidentiality, to protect him, we'll call him Bren. OK? So I was expecting an engagement ring. What I actually got was a home testing kit for chlamydia. I know, that was a surprise. And we all got one, the whole family. He'd gift wrapped them, I know. So but my Auntie Kathleen, who's 87, she was really surprised by this. Now, his sister, Mary, she got me a bottle stopper. You know, one that you put in a bottle of wine, should you ever leave half a bottle of wine. Does anybody do that? No. And his mum got me body butter. You only really get body butter from people who don't like you. I gave her body butter for the last 5 years, so... Anyway, I took the stopper back to Brown Thomas, and you know how I feel about the whites. There's a lot of them there, but I took a risk. And it turned out it wasn't from Brown Thomas at all. It wasn't from that shop. She'd regifted it. It was actually from a shop called Summers. Anne Summers. Yes, madam, you're right. Exactly. It wasn't actually a bottle stopper. No. It was a Yes, it was a butt plug, madam. That's exactly. And I can see we've got a few users in tonight, so great. So I teach happiness courses, and I was going on a flight to England to teach one of these bloody courses, as you do. And I checked with them, could I use a butt plug on a flight? And they said, if it's Ryanair, it's probably better not to. Or if you do, don't tell them, because they will charge you for corkage. I've been Mags, you've been lovely. Thank you very much.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Pat Marone from Laughter Saves Lives Live. You're watching Benny TV.
And we're back with my special co-host, guest co-host, Ryan Rizzuti. Thanks. And before, I forgot in the beginning, I wanted to mention that yesterday was Bugs Bunny's 80th birthday. And we have a picture of, that's what Bugs looks like now with Elmer Fudd. So happy birthday, Bugs! And I don't want to mess up my mic, but I happen to be wearing my Looney Tunes Space Jam shirt. the Toon Squad. So anyway, Ryan, you're here because we're going to talk about movies.
Yes, we're going to have a brief movie discussion about several movies that I've seen because I see way too many movies.
You see them before they come out, practically.
No, I see them when they're released. Usually the first weekend, I've seen most of the movies released recently. The only movie that I won't be talking about is A Quiet Place because I still haven't seen it, even though I've heard great things and I still look forward to seeing it. Just life gets in the way sometimes and there's too many movies that come out and I only have so many hours in the day. But the first movie that I'll be talking about is the movie on everyone's mind, the movie that just got the biggest opening weekend in the history of the box office, both domestic and worldwide, which is the third Avengers film, Avengers Infinity War, which came out this weekend, which actually came out a week earlier than it was supposed to. It was originally going to come out in this upcoming week, and they pushed it back a week because Foreign usually comes out like in England and Europe comes out this week, and because of all the things that happen, there's so many spoilers that I can't talk about that happen that they just went, let's just push it a week so it just gets released pretty much everywhere at the same time.
Oh,
There's a couple
okay.
places like China, I don't think it was released
No,
in
China
yet,
didn't get it yet.
But which is very impressive because it had the biggest worldwide opening of all time without China. So that's really impressive. The previous record holder was Fast and the Furious. The last
Right,
one,
yeah.
and that had China with it, which was like 130 million. So they did that without China, so that was pretty amazing. Its opening weekend beat Force Awakens, which not a lot of people thought. And I really love the movie, but there's not really much I can talk about the movie without spoiling it, because without saying much, there's spoilers within the first 5 minutes of the movie. But what I can say is that if you love superhero movies and you specifically are a big fan of the Marvel movies, go see it. You'll love it, absolutely. If you don't like superhero movies, it's not going to be for you. It's not going to be the one that turns you around on superhero movies. But I think it's amazing. The fact that we got to the point now where all of the things in the movie can happen with all of these characters that we've met, and it's the culmination of 10 years and 18 films.
That's amazing how they did that.
Yeah, it got to 18. It started with Robert Downey Jr. making Iron Man, and now has blossomed into this, which had like something like 30 major characters in it.
And 20 years, you said this was a culmination of 10 years. 20 years ago, everybody was saying, what's up with Marvel? DC was, even though DC only had a few characters, they seemed to be, to have like the stronghold on superhero movies.
Which is really funny now because they're essentially playing catch up. And it's very funny if you watch a movie like Justice League that came out last November and you watch Avengers, they have very similar storylines where it's a group getting together to fight a giant baddie villain alien that's going to destroy the world. But just Marvel does it so differently to the point that the movie's almost like, it's not completely, but it feels like it's a movie about Thanos, not about the Avengers. And he feels like one of the most fully encompassed villains next to Heath Ledger's Joker, because you understand his motivations. Josh Brolin plays him perfectly. He did all the motion capture. It's funny, Josh Brolin also has another superhero movie coming out in 2 weeks, which is Deadpool 2, where he plays Cable, which he might also be the villain in that. So it's very interesting. This is a film he signed up for 5 years ago, and he just happened to be released at the same time as another film he signed up for last year. But no, Avengers, if you are a fan of superhero movies, I highly recommend seeing it. A couple other movies that I saw in the month of April, I saw Rampage, which is The Rock's film, which is about based on a video game from the 1980s, Midway game, which was essentially an arcade game where you play as a giant lizard, a giant gorilla, or a giant wolf monster, and you destroy buildings and eat people and stuff. It's a fun little arcade game. I used to play it. They turned this into a big budget movie from the director of San Andreas, starring The Rock. And what I'll say about this movie is, if you liked Kong Skull Island and you liked San Andreas, you're gonna love Rampage. If you don't like those movies, you're not gonna like Rampage.
It's just a fun popcorn movie.
It's a fun popcorn movie. If you want to watch fun popcorn action, and you have seen Avengers or you don't like Avengers, I'd recommend go seeing that right now. I have one more I'll briefly talk about. I watched this weekend on Netflix the new Adam Sandler film, The Week of, starring Adam Sandler and Chris Rock, directed by Robert Smigel, who most people know is a very good comic writer, worked on SNL. He is the voice of and creator of Triumph the Insult Comic Dog.
Okay.
Very, very, very good comic person. Unfortunately, I think this is the fourth Netflix film that Adam Sandler's made, not counting the Meyerowitz stories with him, Dustin Hoffman, and Ben Stiller, which is on Netflix, but wasn't made for Netflix. It was made and they bought it at, I think, Cannes Film Festival or Sundance, and they put it on Netflix, which is an excellent film. I recommend.
Yes,
The
I highly
Meyerowitz story
recommend
is
that
a very
movie.
good movie. The Week of seems like a movie that everyone in the film only did for a paycheck, and they don't really seem that into it. It is a film that's based in Belmore, and it takes place on Long Island, and it's about the week of Adam Sandler's daughter's wedding, and Adam Sandler's daughter is marrying Chris Rock's son, and Adam Sandler is a lower middle class Jewish man with a typical Long Island family, and Chris Rock is this rich cardiologist, surgeon, and it's the typical father of the bride story. Adam Sandler wants to pay for the wedding even though it's going to be not exactly. He just wants to make his girl happy even though he doesn't have the means to, and refuses to take the money from Chris Rock, who could do 1,000 of these weddings. There are some jokes that I like. There are some jokes that I may have liked because I felt like I knew the people that they were making fun of, because it did feel like Long Island families that I know since living on Long Island, but sometimes I also felt it was insulting Long Island in some ways.
Yeah.
Which I don't think was intentional.
I'm
but
sure
maybe,
it wasn't.
But it has a couple of good jokes that I liked, but it's very mean-spirited in a lot of its comedy, which I
Yeah.
didn't like. One of the biggest jokes in the movie is he has an uncle that has no legs, and he has a wheelchair that doesn't work, so he has to carry him everywhere. So if that's funny, maybe you'll enjoy the movie. It's on Netflix, so if you want to watch it, nothing's stopping you, but I wouldn't recommend
It's
it.
free. You wouldn't recommend it,
I
and
wouldn't
it's
recommend
free
it.
on Netflix.
It's free. I wouldn't recommend it. Watch Daredevil. And I know you want to talk about a movie that came out in October.
We're talking about a movie that came out in October. Okay, and
I'll let you start with this.
you want me to start? Well, Blade Runner 2049 came out in October, but we're going to show it originated. It's a sequel. And it was adapted from the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yes.
And then they came out with, they made a sequel, which at the time, you kept telling me about it. I wasn't really looking forward to it. I didn't know, I thought they would hurt the movie, but it turns out to be an exceptional film. But you must see the first one.
Yeah, no, I highly agree that you have to have seen the first one. I have a lot of friends that enjoyed the new Blade Runner, but had not seen the first one. They're like, I liked it, but I was really confused. I didn't really know what was going on. I'm like, well, did you see the first one? No. It does feel like a film that you don't have to have seen the first one, but a lot of the film you won't understand without having the backstory that is the first one, because the second one is essentially a search for the characters of the first movie.
Right. So
Which
Blade
is
Runner,
what's so interesting about it.
Blade Runner 2049, which we're showing the poster for right now, is it really is an amazing movie. But I disagree. I think that you really have to see. It's the foundation. The first movie is the foundation of the second one, which is amazing with great characters. Jared Leto was showing right now, and he's a blind man who can plug in these little, what are they, like little floating
Cameras almost. So that he can see. And he is the new creator of the replicants, the robots in the series.
So you see, I feel you have to know what happened in the first one, what the creator of and the corporation.
For the progression of what happened.
Because what they are, they took the old android, and an android was supposed to be a robot which had skin and was a human robot. What they did was they created the genetically created androids, which are called replicants, and they actually bleed. And in the first movie, there's this one guy who's a genetic designer, and he talks to Rutger Hauer's character, and he says, "You're Nexus 6." He says, show me something, because I designed you, show me something. And Rutger Hauer says, we're not computers, Sebastian. We're physical. And the bottom line of both movies, it didn't really hit me in it, it's about slavery.
Yes.
Because these,
in a way, it is a big thing about slavery.
We've created, genetically created slaves to do our hard labor on colonizing, because of course the planet Earth is being destroyed. So we're colonizing other planets. And then something happens to the Tyrell Corporation and it gets taken over by who we show, Jared Leto.
Yes.
Who's blind. And it's an intricate story. It's almost 3 hours, right? It's the movie.
Yeah, no, it's a very long movie.
It's a long movie. But I feel that the first Blade Runner, it was a box office bomb.
Yes.
But it continued to
became a huge cult, one of the biggest cult sci-fi classics of all time. It's a film that's put up there with Star Wars as one of the biggest sci-fi films that changed the way that we look at sci-fi films. I would say probably besides Star Wars, most sci-fi films to this day, if they have a post-apocalyptic or sort of dystopian future, a lot of it is being taken from the first Blade Runner film.
Yes.
A lot of it. The adoption of the Asian culture into the future, the way of the look and the aesthetic of LA, a lot of that has been copied dozens upon dozens of times in other films now. Which is why it made sense that they would want to make a new one due to the big following that it has. And I thought, you and me both agreed, that having Ridley Scott not direct it but still be a part of it, a producer, was a very good idea, because Ridley Scott made 18 versions of Blade Runner.
That's the problem. There are all these different versions, which we could do a whole show on that. So I just want to say, go say it.
Well, what I want to say is I think the best thing they did for this one was that they chose to use what is considered right now is, in my opinion, one of the biggest up-and-coming directors of the past 10 years, which is Denis Villeneuve, who directed Blade Runner 2049, who also directed Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, and he directed Sicario with Benicio del Toro and Emily Blunt and Josh Brolin, and he's done several films, and he did Arrival with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner, which is now considered becoming a sort of modern classic and a interesting look on maybe a somewhat realistic look of aliens were to come to the planet. So that was the film he made right before Blade Runner. And I don't like that movie as much as some people do. I do like that movie, but I have some issues with it. But I thought Blade Runner, he did the perfect mesh of showing you the world you know, but also introducing you to a new world. And the look of the film, the aesthetics, Roger Deakins, my favorite cinematographer of all time, and he has been nominated a dozen times and never won until winning this year for Blade Runner, which is amazing.
That's great.
And it was, to me, one of his best works. So I'm very happy for that. But to me, the film is one of the best films of last year, in my opinion. It's in my top 5.
Me too.
Of my favorite films of last year.
Definitely in my top 5. And I do want to say one more thing. You said it was great that they got that director, because having Ridley Scott a part of it is fine, but he overkills. But he's even admitted, I've seen him admit in interviews that he's a great director, but other people have to write the story for him.
Yes.
So Hampton Fancher, who wrote the original screenplay for Blade Runner, adapted from Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, he again wrote the main screenplay,
yes.
And then they bring in another writer to.
They do that a lot in Hollywood now, yeah.
But Hampton Fancher is responsible for both Blade Runner movies.
Yes.
He is, he did a brilliant job in the casting of Ryan Gosling to carry the film, because that's the whole thing too. Blade Runner is carried by Harrison Ford. So now in Blade Runner 2049, you see Ryan Gosling, and he has to carry you throughout
the entire film, yeah.
And he does an amazing job.
The whole film is on the crux of his performance. Without him, it doesn't really work. Because I've discussed this with you, I can't really think of many actors that could have played that role. There's a couple I can think of, Christian Bale being one of them, but it would be different. It would be a very different kind of film. Because I don't think there's that many actors of his age that could play that role.
Right. I won't even think anymore, because I tried that when we had the discussion about who else could play it, and it's like, Ryan Gosling did such an amazing job, as a Blade Runner. And in 30 years' time, Blade Runner, when Harrison Ford was a Blade Runner, you didn't really see how people reacted. They were more afraid of him. Now, 30 years later, they hate them.
Because so much has changed. Because
So
there
much-
is so much has changed. And one thing that they did that was, I think, is very interesting, which is something Ridley Scott's been trying to do with his movies in the past couple of years, and Denis Villeneuve adopted it with this, which was they had 3 short films come out before the film was released that are all take place in different points between the first film and the second film.
Yes.
One is a anime short about the blackout that happens between the first film and the second film. One is a film entirely about Dave Bautista's character, who I love in the movie but isn't in it for very long. And then one is a short film entirely about Jared Leto's character
And
how he gets to the point where he is at in the second one.
And they are on the DVD. So if you haven't seen the movie, you get the Blu-ray DVD, and they were on it. And the Jared Leto, which we saw before we saw the movie, you learn a lot about his character.
I think the same thing with Bautista's character. You understand his character's motivations and reasoning for why he does the things in the film in the beginning.
And for those of you, if you don't know what a Blade Runner is a Blade Runner is somebody who has to hunt down renegade replicants who are not allowed to be on Earth. And they hunt them down and they kill them. But killing a replicant is known as retirement. It's you're retiring a replicant.
And if you don't know who Batista is, Dave Bautista is a world-renowned professional wrestler who went by the name Batista, was a member of Evolution, multiple-time world heavyweight champion, wrestled Undertaker at WrestleMania, did not win, and has now become, in my opinion, the most successful wrestler turned actor since The Rock.
Character actor. He
is become a character actor.
He's a character actor, and he is in the new Avengers.
He is in the Avengers. He plays Drax the Destroyer, a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy in Guardians 1 and 2, who is a very good action part of the films, but he's also become a main comedic force. And he has some of the best jokes in 1 and 2, and he has some of the best jokes in Avengers Infinity War. He has a couple of jokes that I can't mention that steal the movie. He has a couple of jokes that just steal the show. He has a couple of jokes in Guardians 1 that steal the show.
Yes.
You know, the whole thing that he's an alien that they don't take metaphors. They don't understand metaphors. And Rocket Raccoon says metaphors go right over his head. And he says, nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
Which is
and
great.
Only something of that act that he could deliver it in that way.
Right.
And I think Batista has become a great actor, and he's in more and more things.
Me too. I agree.
And
I couldn't agree more.
I loved the fact that he was in Blade Runner because it even made him an even more
What a great
more
character.
accomplished actor now.
It's a great, he's in the beginning of it, and it's, like you said, there isn't enough of him, but what he plays, the part he plays is very important. It's great. So, all right, that was talking about movies, and we'll be back to talk about music after we're going to show a video from a friend of mine made a really nice video called The Slice. So it's video number 2, The Slice, about a pizza place in Queens. So here we go.
Yeah, let me get a gluten-free organic chicken barbecue slice with that handcrafted small batch crust, thanks.
What? We don't do none of that stuff here, kid.
But the Yelp review said that...
I don't do Welp. I don't do none of that stuff. That was across the street, Greg G's with 2 G's, okay? Since that gluten-free, crust-free range, Queens, whatever that stuff is, went out, there's only one Greg with 1 G, and that's me, because I'm an old G. Now, what do you want?
But why does your name tag say Nunzio, and why are we at Guadio's Pizza?
Kid, why are you asking questions you don't need to know the answers to? And what do you want?
Let me ask you about that plain slice.
Yeah, it's a plain slice. What do you want?
From where do you source your tomato sauce?
From my fucking grandmother, all right? She was popping out kids and making the sauce at the same time. You should be so lucky to even taste the sauce.
Ooh, secret family recipe. I like it.
Ooh, you really like it? Ooh. You see, kid? That's the way it's done.
Yeah, maybe if your taste palette isn't as advanced as mine.
Listen, kid, all right? My pizzeria has been around before your dad's dysfunctional sperm knocked up your politically correct mother. Now, here's your fucking slice.
But I'm a vegan.
I don't care if you're fucking Venezuelan. Give me my $4 and get the fuck out.
Oh, I almost forgot. Smile.
Jeez, what language was that?
Dude, you gotta check out Greg's Pizza or Nunzio's or Guardito's, whatever the hell they call it. This guy is so authentic. He almost choked me out.
Boy, I tell you, the next hipster that walks through those doors, I'm gonna put him in a fucking gluten-free cement bag.
Hey, what's going on? I got Iceland Family Haircutters here. Anytime you need a haircut, stop on in. My name is Janet, and you need to see Benny TV. What an idiot. Adios.
And that video was The Slice, and it ended with my friend Janet, who from Islip Family Haircutters, who happens to be our sponsor tonight, is Islip Family Haircutters. You may see her again in the duration of the show. And that video was my friend Gregorius Kritikos, and him, and it was filmed by Stoney Jackson. And Greg, also known as Greg the Greek, a big city comic, very funny man. You hear me talk about him all the time, and very funny. That's a really funny video. I also I didn't mention the first video we showed was Margaret McHugh, Mags. Mm-hmm. I didn't mention that. Yeah, as you noticed, Mags was in a wheelchair, and then she got out of the wheelchair and stood up. Well, she told me, and we're going to learn a lot more about her in future shows. But what she does is, she's challenging how people are treated who are on the outside of like normal people. And she says, people come on a journey with me. So she like tries to teach them. She doesn't just go on stage. She does the whole bit with the wheelchair during the gig and everything. And doesn't get out of the wheelchair until she's on stage, which is great. And then she notices how people are treated in a chair, how they're different. So that was 2 videos.
Islip Family Haircutters. The 101st haircut is always free.
That's great. He's the funny one of the family. I actually steal his jokes. But yeah, Islip Family Haircutters on 188 Route 111 in Islip, New York. And tell him Boomer Esiason sent you.
I don't think it'll help, but yeah.
Tell them that you learned about them from Benny TV. Even if you already knew about them, tell them.
Islip Family Haircutters. We do every uncle in your entire family for half off.
What does that mean?
Islip Family Haircutters.
Oh, because of family? So yeah, all right.
Islip Family Haircutters. Every 3rd child gets 30% off.
Okay. We talked about, we spoke about movies. Now, I'd like to move over to music and talk. I went to a concert. You saw a movie over the last week. I went to a concert, and I saw Dweezil Zappa.
And before the concert, what did you do? I believe you got your haircut. And where did you get your haircut?
At
Islip Family Haircutters.
Yes, I did. So anyway, I went to, actually, I got my haircut the next day. So my beard was more,
my mistake.
More Santa oriented. Anyway, we're showing a picture of Dweezil Zappa. Well, I saw Dweezil Zappa, and there's Dweezil at the Paramount, and that was a current picture I took Friday.
And this was Dweezil Zappa plays Zappa, or just Dweezil Zappa?
Dweezil Zappa, and now this tour, it's called the World Tour Choice Cuts of Frank. So because he's not, without getting, there's a family thing going on. The younger siblings have have rights to the name, so he's not allowed to call it Zappa Plays Zappa. But this has been a tradition of mine, as you know. I take a picture of the marquee, and I have a picture of, I've seen Dweezil 7 times, and this is a picture of his dad, Frank, who wrote some great music, great stuff. And Dweezil, as you saw him 3 times. Here's a picture of the 4. Here's the Mothers of Invention, and that's the We're Only in It for the Money album, where they're all in dresses, and it's
and that's Frank, Hugo, Louie, Bowie, Zed, Joey, and Chester, right?
Okay, all right, yeah.
Is that correct?
I do know the names of a few of them. Actually, I don't
Which
know.
one's
I know
the mother?
They're all mothers. Mothers of Invention. The 3 on the end. Okay, the picture's gone. Anyway, the 3 on the right side.
Yes.
The guy with the mustache and the black hair is Jimmy Carl Black, the Indian of the group. And I know that because on this album, in between songs, he says, "Hi, boys and girls. I'm Jimmy Carl Black, and I'm the Indian of the group." And the man with the brown hair and the little goatee is Don Preston. I remember him. And all the way to the right could be, I'm not positive if that's Ian Underwood. I'm not sure. But Ian Underwood was Frank's sax player. And we showed the picture of Dweezil before. And his sax player is Sheila Gonzalez, who is
yes,
amazing. Yes.
Brilliant.
There's a picture of her again.
Yeah,
so,
that's Dweezil on the left and Sheila on the right.
Right.
Sheila's probably the best sax player I've ever heard.
I have to agree.
Notwithstanding my friends that I went to Five Towns College with that also play sax that are excellent. But Sheila's amazing.
Sheila's amazing. I remember the first show you went to, you actually stood up when she did a saxophone solo.
You have to bring this up.
Well, isn't that the reason why you went?
Continue with the story.
She did the saxophone solo. That was amazing. That you stood up because you said a normal person would have passed out doing that solo. What she went through, that you could see she was struggling, but she's amazing. And
I stood up and I gave a standing ovation. I told everyone that deserved a standing ovation.
Yeah, that's what you told everybody. It did. And it did. I believe I might have gotten up, stood up with you. I did.
You might have had a bad back that day. I'm not sure.
But if you love Frank Zappa, if you're a fan of Frank Zappa music, then I highly recommend that you go see Dweezil Zappa at least once. You don't have to be like me. I saw him my 7th time.
You go way too often.
I said I wasn't going to go anymore. I said that this would be my final Dweezil show. Because, I mean, but he gave me chills.
You've seen him all over. You've seen him all over the island, in the city.
I've seen him at the Gramercy Theater in the city. That was the first time, and then we went together. Saw him in Westbury, and at the Paramount 3 times, and last year in West Hampton.
Yeah, you saw him in West Hampton.
West Hampton. But I want to say this about, if you're a fan of Frank Zappa, I urge you to go see this band, because when our friend John Warby, he's the one that you first told me about it. I remember you said, "Dad, come down, I want to show you a video." And it was a video of Dweezil Zappa on tour with members of the original...
With the original group, like people who played with his father.
With his father.
That was really fascinating to me.
And you were, and I'm fascinated by the fact that my son, I played all kinds of music growing up, and he's not a Grateful Dead fan.
I don't like Grateful Dead.
I don't
like listening to country music.
But at 3 years old, he was singing Frank Zappa songs.
When I was in 4th grade, I had to do a project in my music class on a musician. And, of course, I don't know why this isn't of course, but everyone wanted to do Elvis. And one person got to do Elvis. I don't know why it was that everyone wanted to do Elvis, that in 2002 or 2003, all the kids wanted to do a report on Elvis. That's kind of strange to me now, but I guess, it's better than everybody doing a report on, Little Xan. But then I chose Frank Zappa. It just came to me, and I chose Frank Zappa, and ever since then, I've always loved Frank Zappa. Then I knew Frank Zappa because of you, and that was a musician that you always had me listen to as a kid.
But you love his songs. I mean,
Yeah.
And then, so you...
To me, he reminds me of a mixture of, like, classic rock mixed with, like, a Weird Al, mixed with, like, a Primus. Because, like, I always tell you, because I love Primus as well, and Les Claypool is one of the greatest bassists of all time, I see a lot of Frank Zappa in Primus, and that's why I always try to get you to listen to Primus. And I like that sort of, has, like, an off-kilter humor, but it's also really good music.
Right.
It's not bad music, and it's not a parody. Like Weird Al's a parody, but it has that off-kilter humor that a Weird Al song has. In most of the songs. He has some songs that don't have any humor and is just a pure musical song, but a lot of them, you know, Frank Zappa's most famous songs are Don't Eat That Yellow Snow, and Colony Vegetable, and
Joe's Garage. Now,
and My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama.
Yeah.
I like to play that one on dates.
Now people should know that Frank Zappa did not consider himself like a musician or a band. He was a composer. He was a modern day composer. So like you said, he took different, and he loved the 50s. So that's why in some of his songs they
have like the radio commercials.
And the doo-wop and stuff.
Yeah,
He'll throw in the doo-wop because he loved it.
And he'll have the background singers and he'll have the...
And he made sounds that he could only do in a studio at the time. So when the first time I saw Dweezil, my friend John kept pushing me to go, and he told me, Benny, this is not a tribute band. It's not a tribute. And when I went, the first song they opened with was off the Hot Rats album called The Gumbo Variations, which is an amazing song with an amazing sax solo in it.
Yeah.
And when they did that, they blew me away, and then it hit me. Zappa was a composer. There is no such thing as a Zappa tribute band. You have to be real good to play. It's like an orchestra.
I wouldn't consider it a tribute band because it is Frank Zappa's son, who is the leader of the band, and he has made music with his father. There are songs that he made with his father,
right?
And he learned from the very best. And to me, it's more of a passing of the torch than it is a tribute or a variation.
I will agree with that.
It's a passing of the torch.
It is a passing, and he is such an underrated guitar player. Dweezil is an amazing...
Oh, he's an excellent guitar player.
And you said the first time you saw him, you said he made it look easy.
He does make it look easy.
But
he makes it look very easy. I went to an art school. I have a lot of friends that play instruments. I know how difficult it can be. Like, and I don't play any instruments, and every person who can play an instrument, I give them a lot of credit because there's a varying levels of difficulty when it comes to playing instruments, and he is on that expert level.
Yeah.
And I think that musicians do study Frank Zappa, but they should study Dweezil as well. They should study both of them because I think they're both amazing.
He gave me chills. So, as I said, it was going to be my last. No, he's said at the end of the show he's going to come back in November. I may be going. It was amazing.
I kind of expected
it was
that.
amazing. If you get
Spoiler
a chance,
alert.
see Dweezil. What?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Benny's going to see Frank Zappa Dweezil Zappa for the 88th time.
Anyway, I'm Benny Rizzuti. This is Ryan Rizzuti, and we're going. The show is Benny TV. So we're going to show you some.
Brought to you by Family Haircutters of Iceland. Iceland Family Haircutters.
Iceland Family Haircutters. We're going to show you.
Every eighth customer gets a free balloon.
Fascinating.
Only when I'm there.
A fascinating horror novelist, and I think she should be on everybody's summer reading list. You love horror. Here's Loren Malloy reading a portion of chapter 1 of her book, The Storyteller of Pain. Loren Malloy.
Stuff. Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm author Loren Malloy, and I thought what better way to get into the Halloween spirit and to really celebrate the holiday than for me to read chapter 1 of The Storyteller of Pain. Remember, you can find my books through Amazon and Barnes & Noble in paperback and Kindle. The Storyteller of Pain, Chapter 1. Don't you see, I'm a map of scars. Under this skin, under this flesh, a book of scars tell the story of my life. I'm like a patchwork quilt, but nothing so pretty or so neat. Each scar is a story. Each story leads to another scar and another story. The story is never complete. It will never be complete. I am the storyteller of pain. That's nice, Mrs. Delacour, but I asked you how you slept last night. The psychiatrist looked at the woman sitting in the chair across from her. Mrs. Delacour was mid-40s, came from a good family, and was dropped off at the sanitarium 3 nights ago. The family was powerful and wealthy. They simply couldn't afford to be seen with a lunatic for a family member, so they signed her over to the sanitarium for safekeeping. Mrs. Delacour had repeated the same thing to any question she was asked. Don't you see I'm a map of scars? Dr. Sinclair had been head psychiatrist there for 7 years. In all those years, she had never been so puzzled as she had been with Mrs. Delacour. The history given showed no signs for hysteria, nor any psychosis. No signs of trauma or abuse seemed present. She hadn't had a patient like this before. She's had patients who rambled things plenty of times. She's even had patients who just seemed to crack one day and never return. This was different. Lillian had never felt this before. She knew she couldn't base things on her feelings or emotions, but she had never felt like this before with a patient. Lillian had been in rooms with murderers, rapists, and madmen alike, but she was never scared, only fascinated and professional. Delia Delacour was different. Lillian couldn't explain it, but the moment Delia spoke, Lillian had goosebumps appear on her flesh, and a chill flew up her spine. Delia's eyes looked dead. Her voice sounded empty, cold, and raspy. The only word she could think of was haunted. It was a look of horror, of seeing too much for the mind to handle, a nightmare that would never stop replaying before the person's eyes. Waking or asleep made no difference to Mrs. Delacour. She was stuck in an endless loop of horror. Whatever she saw, whatever happened to her, it was bad. Very bad. Her skin was pasty, pale, and clammy. Her eyes were wide, bloodshot, fear-ridden, and yet somehow looked dead and lifeless at the same time. Mrs. Delacour seemed like a marionette that only came alive when it was time to say her little speech. She was like a pull toy with only one message. Ask a question, and an invisible hand pulled an invisible cord somewhere deep inside her. And suddenly, she had lifelike movements and speech. When she finished her message, and it finished its recording, she would go back to a lifeless-looking marionette. It was disturbing, to say the least. The Storyteller of Pain, by me, author Loren Malloy. Remember, you can find my books through Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Just look up my name, author Loren Malloy, Lorenmolloy. I hope you enjoyed Chapter 1 of The Storyteller of Pain. I wish you a very happy Halloween and happy horrors from me, author Loren Malloy.
Hi, I'm Brian. Sorry, I got a bit confused. I thought this was going to be a painting show. But I brought my painting anyway. I'd like to show it to you if that's okay. It's my first painting and I'm quite nervous about it actually. Sorry, this is it here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Makes me feel a lot better. It's my, I was trying to think of a really clever name for it, but I couldn't think of one, so I just called it what it is, really. I called it the Dakar Rally. You know the Dakar Rally, it's the car race in the Sahara Desert. And this is my artist's impression of it. I know you're all looking at it thinking, oh, it's a bit of an obvious name, Brian, but you know. Well, fuck you know what I mean? I was so poor I had to paint this in the back of some crappy old picture I found of some fruit. I don't know what's... Oh, sorry, no, that's it there, sorry. That's it there. Thank you very much. Yeah, the other thing I'd like to do now is I'd like to read a poem to you, if that's okay. Yeah, thanks. It's about a place that I went to on holiday a couple of years ago. It's an extraordinary place. Left a very profound effect on me, and this is my poem about it. It's called An Ode to Magaluf. I don't know, do you know Magaluf? It's the Spanish resort on Mallorca. It's, you know, if they say London is the beating heart of Britain, or that the Amazon is the lungs of the earth, then on that logic, Magaluf is the arsehole of the universe. It's ghastly. Yeah, so this is it. I lay on the beach, my eyes closed, the sun high in the sky, the warm Mediterranean heat caressing my naked body. Surrounding sounds stir my soul, waves crashing on the floor, a warm breeze blowing through the palm trees, two drunken slags trying to smash each other's face in. I sat up, and for a while I just sat and stared at the little boys in the water. That's boys as in B-U-O-Y-S, by the way, not... I wasn't looking at... Night fell on Magaluf like a great, big, dark thing. Actually, this poem is shite. Sorry. So yeah, that's me anyway. I'm just wondering, do any of you have any questions or? Did you all like my picture of the Dakar Rally? Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, let's start at €100 then. I'm Brian. You've been a great audience. Thank you very much.
And that was Brian Keegan, who is from Dublin, Ireland, lives in Dublin, and it's his birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Brian. And it's almost 1 o'clock in Dublin. So it's been your birthday for 1 hour, Brian. Happy birthday. Brian, you're on the telly. His friends were, I made a commercial with him. Yeah. And they said, Brian, you're finally going to be on the telly. So he's on the telly. So, Brian, I hope you're do a shot of Jameson's for us. And
on behalf of all of us, we would love to say Islip Family Haircutters, the best shimmers and the best scissors in the Southwest.
The fastest scissors in the West.
Southwest.
Southwest.
It's on the South side. Yeah.
Anyway, this has been Benny TV. Hope you had as much fun as we did. And I'll be back next week. So with more videos. I'm sorry to some of my friends. Your videos didn't make it tonight because I have a big mouth. So next week, your videos will be on. Thank you for watching.
And I have to get ready for the prince's wedding in England, so I won't be.
Oh, you're going to the wedding.
I'm going to the wedding.
So he won't be here next week. I'm
a close friend of the royal family.
That's great. Obama didn't get invited. He's upset. So anyway, thank you.
If you get the Prince Yankee tickets, usually do
Yankee
you
tickets.
want. That's
wow.
all.
And all the way up, he doesn't mind the nosebleed.
No, sometimes he likes to walk. He likes to walk around.
All right, thank you. This has been Benny TV. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, everybody.
He only drinks Diet.